welcome to Small But Mighty. Security might be a big subject, but that doesn't mean people can't learn a lot in a short amount of time. We know people are busy, but they are still hungry for ways to approach securing their organizations or their clients. That's why twice each month, we'll be hosting 15-minute coffee chats with innovators and thought leaders in the cybersecurity space to provide big insights in a bite-sized format. I'm Stacy, and this is Joe from the Attila marketing team. And today we are here with Vesh, co-founder and CTO of Attila. Hi, Vesh.
Hey, Stacy. How are you?
So I'm great, thank you, because I'm about halfway through my first cup of coffee, which is how long it takes me to get there. Speaking of, because this is a coffee chat, let's talk a little bit about what everybody's got in their mug this morning or afternoon, depending on when you're watching.
Who wants to go first?
Oh, I think we probably need to let Vesh go first, because I'm pretty sure his is exciting.
I know, his will be exciting. Go ahead, Vesh.
So I'm just drinking an Americano right now. Recently got an espresso machine, so having fun, just trying different bean blends that I can get my hands on. The one today is called Hologram. It's a blend from Counterculture, and I think they're based out of North Carolina. That's where their headquarters is. So I can get fairly fresh beans here in the local grocery stores from them.
And the full-on espresso machine, that's a big jump up from my Mr. Coffee.
Yeah, I mean, I think once Corona started, it was a lot harder for me to go down and try different coffee shops, which is one of my favorite hobbies. So I decided, I think this is a good time to start experimenting and figuring out how they do it so well.
Yeah, I think we've all become temporary baristas since we don't have ours available. Well, I'm with my old standard of Folgers, and Joe, I don't know if you're in the same boat as me. We're boring.
I kind of am. I'm boring. I'm always boring with the coffee anyway. I'm drinking Costco's brand, Columbia Supremo. So it sounds really fancy.
It does sound fancy.
It's really not.
Good old Kirkland.
Kirkland, that's it. Kirkland's finest.
Well, with that, today we're here to talk a little bit about some of the unique deployment options that we've been working on with some of our clients here at Attila for CSfC Mobile Access capability package architectures. So Vesh, you want to talk a little bit about how we've been approaching that and how we've seen some different requests come through?
Yep, happy to. So within CSfC and the mobile access capability package, one of the difficult things, especially since the word mobile and the fact that you're trying to create a solution set that is very easy for individuals to carry and move around with, and pretty much being able to set up and leave an environment immediately or being able to use it on the go. One of the issues with that has always been trying to get two VPNs to run on a single device. In fact, that's probably one of the hardest things at this point today, mainly because it comes with a lot of experimentation and R&D type of work that you have to do to get it working in the first place. It's almost impossible to get it running on some devices because you don't have that low level of access to the operating system where you have to modify the routes or other settings. And then once you do get it up and running, it's really difficult to maintain and update and to make sure it's working as you get updates for the OS itself. Because a lot of the times, updating the OS is going to break whatever you set up in there. And nowadays, when you have updates almost every 2 weeks to a month now, that's a lot of time wasted in the maintenance tail just for the upkeep of the solution.
And imagine dealing with that in the field as like a law enforcement or military organization.
Yep,
like,
exactly.
Oh, I can't do this. I have to install an update. Hold on.
Right. Or just the fact that you have to have the solution set ready to deploy at any second for a lot of these use cases. You can't tell them, hey, can you just wait another 3 hours while I finish this? And then maybe it'll work for another 2 days. So a lot of the customers that we've been working with recognize this. And along with that, with the next NSA CSfC draft release that they have today, which I believe is geared to be released later this summer, MACP version 2.4, that specifically calls out the need for something like a retransmission device or a dedicated outer VPN gateway, which Attila's Go Silent Cube solution works perfectly in that position. And what that allows you to do is basically keep the outer VPN on a dedicated hardware VPN firewall device. That way you only have to install a single software VPN client on your end user devices. And it becomes plug and play, and it works in a way that the commercial vendors have designed their technology from the get-go. I don't think any of the commercial vendors on that list designed their solution and expected there to be a second VPN running alongside of it. So having that dedicated outer VPN gateway allows you to easily set that up separately and have that plug and play functionality with basically any device off that list.
So Vesh, I've got a question. You also mentioned another configuration as a retransmission device. How does that differ from what you just described with the consistent outer tunnel option?
Yep. So with the retransmission device, really that requirement is there because if you take like a 4G or in the future a 5G cell phone, basically anything with cellular capabilities today, the concern and risk they're trying to address with that is what's referred to as the baseband problem, which is basically the 4G chip and the CPU and the memory are all built as a system on a chip on that device or those types of devices, which basically means they share memory access and other things which are really nice for speed and things like that. But when it comes down to security, the problem then comes in that the carrier that you're working with for that cellular connectivity often has access to that 4G chip on that device, which might be okay if you're in the US and you're working for the US government. But as soon as you go outside, you're running on some foreign country cellular network, which may or may not be trustworthy at that point. And just to alleviate any concerns there, especially since you're going to be running more and more classified data over these devices at higher level classifications and other things, I believe they decided to just say, okay, we're going to require this for everyone. You're going to have that hardware separation. That way, nothing outside of your control has direct access into the devices. So what the retransmission device is doing is basically on one end, it's going to be connecting to 4G or Wi-Fi, basically the backhaul or upstream network. And it's basically the internet, whatever source of internet you can get wherever you are. And then on the local area network side, it's going to put out a wireless hotspot or you're going to have an Ethernet connection into it to connect your end user devices.
Gotcha. Okay. That explains it. That actually helps me understand why the cube is something that's considered in that scenario.
Yep, and along with that, we're adding in the VPN capabilities as well to not only meet the future requirements, but then alleviate the concerns and the maintenance tail of running two software VPNs on a single device.
That sounds like putting two siblings in a room together and expecting them to get along. said clearly from experience. So what are some of the unique architectures you've been putting together for clients, and how are they using the cube as part of their deployment?
Yep, that's a great question. And before I go directly into that, one other thing I wanted to mention, which I think will be reflected in the specific use cases I talk about, is that the fact that the outer VPN is dedicated, you can easily upgrade your devices as you go in the future as well. Because let's say today you have a certain version of a phone, next year a new one comes out and you want to do a hardware refresh for that. Now you have to go figure out how those two VPNs will work on this new version of the phone. Or if you want to switch from one vendor to another, you have to go and redo all of that, including the R&D, not just a maintenance tail, which can get pretty expensive. So in the use cases we have today, one of the larger ones that we've seen today is using virtual desktops within the mobile access capability package. Because what that allows you to do is ensure that all your classified data is going to be back at the data center. You're only going to have brief session information, or like the actual screen that the person's viewing on the user's device. And then if you're using the dual data at rest or something like a zero client, you've reduced that risk drastically, where even if that exists, it's going to be really hard, near impossible to get access to that data. So what that allows the customers to do is to take a laptop with the dual data at rest encryption package, or a zero client, or a tablet, connect that to our Go Silent Cube via Ethernet or Wi-Fi, and be able to use a software inter VPN. And a lot of the times these customers already have a software VPN that's already on the approved list, so they can stay using that. And then they might also have VDI in place as well. So they install their VDI client like they do today. And that's really it for the end user device side. And the Go Silence, they provision beforehand centrally and hand those out. And from there on, it's as easy as connecting to the internet on the Go Silent side, and then being able to access their virtual desktop remotely. We also have use cases where we're working with tactical radios as well, where that's the backhaul that the Go Silent traffic rides on. And in that case, that becomes, the Go Silent there becomes more of an inner VPN, whereas traditionally as a retransmission device or a dedicated outer VPN gateway, it's the outer VPN. So the Go Silent Cube has the flexibility to work as both. And along with the centralized management the Cube offers, it becomes really easy to deploy and maintain and manage these in an easier way than what's available today with the retransmission devices that people are using. Because today that might just be a hotspot that you grab off the shelf from a carrier like Verizon or AT&T. And that doesn't really have centralized management capabilities. Each one is managed individually. So that also becomes a nightmare.
So, I mean, it sounds like across both of the use cases you just talked about, what's unique and probably something that you don't find in any of the other CSfC approved components is the ability to kind of bolt this on to a solution you already have, rather than having to build a solution from the ground up, which saves time in the building and then again in the maintenance.
Yep, exactly. And yeah, with the whole premise behind CSfC being that you're using a layered defense or defense in depth, it becomes a lot easier to look at what you have today before you go out and start building and all that. Evaluate what you have today, see how much of that meets the requirements, and see what you have to add to meet the other requirements. So it becomes a lot easier to, a lot of the times you're already going to have a VPN, you're already going to have some sort of devices, and some of the other requirements like firewalls and things like that as well. So it's a lot easier to use what you have today because you don't have to retrain your existing IT or admin personnel. And then add what you don't have. And the Go Silent is a perfect addition to that because it's plug and play with any IP enabled device there.
So there's still no training.
Yep, exactly.
Beyond not having to retrain them, you don't have to train them on the new thing. That's great.
Right, and especially when you're pre-configuring the VPN material on there and then using a role-based access controls, you basically make it so that the user only has to connect to Go Silent to their local internet connection, whether that's through Wi-Fi or Ethernet. And then the only other option they have is connecting or disconnecting the VPN. They wouldn't have the option to modify any of the details or change any of the other things that you don't want them touching in there. All of that would be done centrally through our system settings, whether that's like the password complexity or login timeouts or DoD login ban or anything like that.
Well, this is great. I know it's a big subject to try and cover in 15 minutes, which is why we're going to include in the show notes some links to some really specific diagrams that you've provided for us, as well as some case studies of all of this in action, in case anybody would like to go dive deeper and spend the time it takes to truly understand each individual architecture as a post interview timeframe. So with that, Joe, unless you had any other questions or clarifications, I was going to close us out.
Yeah, no, I think I'm good. It's been very informative. I definitely even learned something here myself. So thanks, Vesh. Appreciate it.
I know we have access to Vesh every day of our lives, and we still learn something every time he talks.
That's the way it is.
Well, thanks so much for your time today, Vesh. And to all of our viewers, make sure you join us twice a month for our 15-minute security chats to learn more about securing your organization. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.